Picking up where we left off, we're going to look at the behavior of these index objects. And in many ways they behave like sets. One difference is though that a set must always contain unique values, but an index object does not. So we'll create a new series here with redundant values in the index. So we'll have two C indices, and here they are. The index has two C's. Then we'll create an index object with the variable title index2. And now that we have this, we can run some set operations on it. We can ask for the unique elements, and it will give us a set. We can also ask if f is in index2, and that's false. However, if we change this and ask about C, we're going to get a true. Rather than asking for a set of unique index values, we can simply ask the Boolean question, is this unique? And it says no, it's not unique. But what happens if we change this to an E? And we have to run this again and recreate our index object. Then when we check unique on this, we find that it's true. We would also like to look at the intersection between index2 and index copy. And index copy we created up here. Here's index object, and index copy was rendered from that. So now we have index copy available. We can see that it has ABC in it. So let's go back down here and do our comparison. What is the intersection between index2 and index copy? ABC are the values which are contained by both. What is the union between index2 and index body? These are the values that are contained between both of those indices. So on an index object, we can use these methods, some of which we have used. We've looked at isIn, we've looked at just in here, isUnique and intersection. So with that, we're ready to turn our attention to basic functionality of pandas now, and we'll begin that with a discussion of reindexing. So to get our minds around reindexing, let's create a new index with 4 user-defined indices and 4 float values. We can use reindex to reshape that index. We're going to get a behavior familiar to what we've seen before. Because we supplied no value for the new e-index, pandas intuited that an empty should go here. Next, we'll create object 3, which has these string values, and we'll put integer keys in here, 0 indexed, but with a step of 2. So we have 0 index is red, 2 index is green, 4 index is blue. If we reindex this with a vector from 0 to 6, and then we use this method called forward fill, notice the output. Index 0 remains red, index 2 remains green, and index 4 remains blue. But these other indices that have been included, they forward fill. In other words, they take the value from index 0 and forward fill that into the undefined value for index 1. And they take the defined value for index 2 and they forward fill that value into the undefined value for index 3. And likewise for index 4 and 5. So reindexing has some utility that other methods of index manipulation don't have. Let's spend a little time looking at how reindexing works within data frames. Let's create one here. Clearly here we have 3 rows and 3 columns. And we've given both index names and column names here already. Now if we use the reindex method here and we add another index, there's going to be 3 undefined values. And as predicted, pandas automatically assigns empties to these value points. Now, interestingly, here we could say reindex, and we could define that it's the index that we want to be reindexed. And if we run this, we get the exact same output. Since this is the index function, this is a rather redundant identifier here. But if we want to do reindexing across the columns rather than across the indexes, we do have to define the target axis in this case. So let's add a column called India without defining any of the values and see what happens. So it has inserted India, and again it's gone ahead and given empties to these undefined values. Now, oftentimes if we're not trying to add a new value, for example, if all we're trying to do is reorder the rows or the columns, we can get the same result using .loc rather than reindex. So whereas by default the index here is ACD, we've requested it in a different order here of CDA. We can actually comma separate here, and to the left side of the comma, this is going to be requests for the index, and on the right side of the comma is requests for the columns. And if I run this, it's going to grab values from indices A and D and from columns Japan and Korea.